I'll be riding shotgun underneath the hot sun, feeling like a someone.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to In the Sulky for this Friday night. I'm Dave Little, and I'm joined by Dexter Dunn. Dexter Dunn is the 2019 United States Harness Riders Driver of the Year in a ballot recently concluded by the Harness Riders. Dex, congratulations on that.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It was a massive thrill. It's really a dream come true, and I just had a great year. I was with, the horses I got to drive. The support I got was huge, so, it's a big thrill.
How did you got here only in August of last year. How did you amass all of these top drives in such a short amount of time?
I got lucky. I got, obviously, great support from Chris Ryder and Nifty Norman when I got here, who gave me a chance early on and put me on some horses with ability and got me going. And I guess it was a snowball effect from there. Picked up other ones, and it sort of just ran on from there. So it was a surprising season. Didn't expect it whatsoever, but it was great and thoroughly enjoyable.
Now, certainly we're going to get into some of the great horses that you drove last year, with two in particular. But first and foremost, you were a kid who grew up in Christchurch, New Zealand, apparently on a horse farm. Were they race horses on the farm?
No, I just grew up. My father was a horse
Right.
trainer, so I just grew up on a horse farm from when I was a young kid. And actually, my father actually retired from training there for 5 years when I was about from 5 to 10, and I probably completely got out of the horse business, had no interest in horses for a while there when he wasn't training and I wasn't on the farm anymore. And then when I was 10 or 11, he got back into it, and I remember I think I was 11 years old, he dragged me out of school one day because he was taking two horses to train down the beach and needed a driver. So I got the call up, and from that day I was hooked back on horse racing, and it's been nothing ever since.
All right, so you were the catch driver then. Now, what about this? You wanted to play for the All Blacks. Kids here want to play for the Dallas Cowboys or the New York Yankees. How much of a rugby player were you? Did you play all the time as a kid?
Yeah, I lived for rugby.
Right.
I played from when I was 5 till I was 27, I think. I played right through, So, New Zealand is a rugby nation, and we all love rugby. And obviously, when I was a kid growing up playing rugby, you want to be an All Black,
Right?
like any other kid in New Zealand that plays rugby. So, it's it's predominantly rugby in New Zealand, and I loved it, And obviously, when the All Blacks lost the semi-final of the World Cup late last year, it was sure the country would have been in mourning, including me over
When the
here.
All Blacks lose, everybody in New Zealand kind of bums out, don't they?
Yeah, it's I'm sure the whole nation was watching. It wasn't very enjoyable, but that's sport.
Well, let's fast forward to some of your driving exploits. First and foremost, as a young man, you've already been in the World Driving Championship 3 times, and you won it in 2015. Some of the other guys in that competition, Tim Tetrick was 3rd, Jody Jamieson 5th, so it clearly was a pretty tough road to hoe.
Yeah, which you want, and expect on a World Drivers tournament. So it was. I was lucky enough to go on 3 of them. I met some lifelong friends doing it. It's such an enjoyable time because you have 10 drivers from all around the world, competing in the sport that you absolutely love in your career, and it's good competitive racing, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. But to win it was right up on the probably near the top of my list.
Now, the Meadowlands of New Zealand is Addington Racecourse. Tell us about what is the major difference between driving at Addington and driving at the Meadowlands? What did you have to adapt? What did you have to do differently to drive here?
Well, obviously our distances are different back in New Zealand. We also have stand starts. The biggest race we have in New Zealand is a 2-mile stand start race, the New Zealand Cup, which is at Addington. So, the racing style was different. You can make a move 3 times in a race back home.
Oh, really?
Back in New Zealand, it's pretty tactical, and there's more horses in a field. You can have up to 15 runners. So, I definitely had to change, but I think the racing down under Australia and New Zealand has slowly progressed more towards American style of racing. It's not obviously there, but quite yet. But it's they have sort of cut the distances down, having more short distance races, and a lot more speed goes into races than it used to, and so we're sort of adapting slowly back there and changing it a little bit, but it's still a different probably ballpark than it is here.
Well, obviously for you, the adaptation came very, very quickly. talking about your Driver of the Year season, let's talk first and foremost about a horse who had an awfully good year for you, and that, of course, is the great Manchego. Let's take a look at Manchego winning right here at Meadowlands on Hambletonian Day in the Steel. What were you thinking at this point of the race?
She put up a big mile with some good fractions, and it's a long way up there straight, but she's just a great mare, and she was really digging in that day. So, I think to be driving on Hambletonian Day was a thrill, but to win a race on Hambletonian Day was, was pretty special. My father, Robert, was over too to be there, so that was cool.
She was the best horse in harness racing, I think, for the last 3 or 4 months of the year. I'm sure that you would agree with that. What about her last race of the year, which was actually in defeat to Sixpack? She was awfully good that day, too.
She was awesome. I think, like you said, the last part of the year was she was at her best, and she just kept getting better. She kept feeling better, every start towards that end of the year. And her run in that TVG final was pretty big. Her fractions early were a bit too tough, and really got stretched to get across the front there, and the way she stuck on, I mean, it's no disgrace getting Sixpack running past you. So it was a great performance. Obviously the Breeders' Crown, she was extra good, and it was a pleasure to be involved with her.
Yeah, 149 flat, the fastest female trotter of all time. She won 6 of her last 7 with you in the Sulky. But I tell you what, you had another horse who grabbed even more headlines during the course of the year. Let's take a look at Better's Wish, and this was another fantastic mile. Better's Wish winning at Lexington on October the 6th. And what about this mile beating Captain Crunch?
It was obviously we North American Cup earlier in the year. He got the upper hand on us, so it was great to turn the tables as such, but. The horse is once in a lifetime for someone like me to be able to drive. He had an unbelievable year. He's just so tough and game, and had some pretty tough runs, but he bounced back week after week. And I almost feel sorry for him. I think if I drove him a bit smarter in a few of those big races, he would have won them. So he had an awesome year. Could have been a little bit better, but you can't. Just discard the horse. He was just awesome all year.
I mean, 19 starts, 19 first or seconds, 13 victories, $1.6 million in the bank, and 4 times during the course of the year, he won over $250,000 purse. How did you get this drive from Chris Ryder? In other words, there were so many other guys who had more experience than you coming into this season. Why do you think Chris gave you the keys to this really, really expensive Ferrari, if you will?
Yeah, well, that's what I was get back to. I was lucky because, Chris and Nifty gave me the chance earlier on in the piece. I drove Better's Wish in the Kentucky Sire Stakes final as a 2-year-old last year. He ran 4th. He got a bad check on the last turn. He went for a break. He come back. He didn't compete in the Breeders' Crown last year. He come back and started off with them, and the horse just had a great year. From start to finish, he was, right there from start of the year to the end of the year, and it's a hard season for those 3-year-olds. They have to turn up week after week and race the best in the country. So, it was great by him.
Let's talk about handicapping. Dave Brower and I sit here every week. We try to figure out who the winners are, and we base some of that on driver decisions. In tonight's 7th race, you decided to drive Major Occasion A instead of Slick Artist A. What goes into that decision-making for you?
Well, for one, it's probably the thing I most hate about racing is picking horses. Right. Because it's sometimes you come across. Sometimes it's easy. It's a pretty clear choice. Sometimes it's hard, and it's it's one thing I don't really like doing. But a few things go into the decision making. One's obviously the horse that you're going to pick.
Right.
What it's been doing lately and how it's been racing, and then obviously also the connections and the trainer. Someone like Nifty has been really good to me. If it's pretty even, you're sort of going to pick over it. But sometimes you do have to make a decision and pick a better horse. So it's never easy. Sometimes you make a call, and quite a lot you make the wrong call. I mean, like the drivers that drive a lot each year, I'm sure they pick up a lot of winners during the year, but that's just the way it goes.
Now, one final thing before we go. There's a decision you made tomorrow night that I found curious. Chris Ryder had Bushwhacker in the 6th race, but you opted to drive Italian Delight for Darren Cassar. Is that simply because you think Italian Delight is the better horse?
Yeah, he just had to qualify. He felt awesome last week in his qualifier, and Bushwhacker is just a great, tough horse. He's very consistent. Italian Delight, I think, can have a pretty strong winter here by the way he felt last week if he keeps improving. He's Probably going to be a little bit short tonight or on this weekend, but the way the feel he gave me, I think you can have a pretty strong winter.
Okay, great. Well, Dexter Dunn, one last thing. Are you going to be driving here at the Meadowlands all winter long?
Yeah, I'm going to be here. Yep, I'll be here. I'll be hoping like every weekend during the winters like this weekend, it's nice and warm and no rain like last weekend. But with the conditions, we'll be here.
Well, we're certainly all glad to see you, and I know the Meadowlands fans are great to see Dexter Dunn each and every weekend right here at the Meadowlands. Dex, congratulations once again, and thanks so much for coming on tonight.
That's a pleasure. Thanks, Dave.
All right, we're going to take a break. 60 seconds from now, Dave Brower's going to jump in that chair. We'll give out this week's trainer, driver, and caretaker of the week and talk about tonight's featured action. Stay with us.